not know it, but this is one of the most in-demand SUVs you can buy in 2023. Wait times for this Toyota Corolla Cross range from anywhere from a couple of months all the way out to 18 months. So why is this so popular, and why are people willing to wait in line for a boxy Toyota hybrid SUV? This top spec Atmos all-wheel drive hybrid Corolla Cross is popular because one, it is built off the Toyota Corolla platform, which is already a popular hatchback. Number two, it's an SUV. So those two things combined, you combine a popular, reliable hatchback from Toyota and the fact this is an SUV, and you already have a pretty in-demand car. Now, it might not be as exciting as a GR Corolla, but this is what the majority of people are buying. So for around $50,000 for your top of the range Corolla Cross, what are you getting? Well, you get these LED lights, which I think look quite nice. You get this larger grille here, which is quite distinct for the Toyota Corolla Cross. You get a blue badge to let everyone know that you're driving around in the hybrid, which seems to be a bit of a flex now, considering how long the wait times are for this car. And there's also lots of plastic cladding around the front of this thing to let everyone know this, yes, is an SUV. And what's cool is that these LED lights do have progressive indicators, which look a lot like this, which looks a bit premium for a Toyota. Now, under the bonnet of this car, you're getting a pretty generic 2-litre 4-cylinder naturally aspirated petrol motor. So there's nothing too special about this motor, but this is paired up to an electric drivetrain, which means you get all-wheel drive because there's an electric motor at the back. And that means that this thing can run on pure electric power alone, which is part of the biggest selling points for this car. Now, this Corolla Cross is dripping in this red metallic paint, which I think looks just a bit more exciting than a generic white or black. Now, you also get a hybrid badge here. You get more plastic cladding around the wheel arches. You get 18-inch dual-tone wheels, which I like quite a lot. You get these pretty large side mirrors, which I thought actually had a pretty interesting design. They're very big, so you won't miss out on anything happening on the side of your car. You also do get keyless locking and unlocking on the outside of this car when you get the top spec Atmos hybrid model, which is pretty cool. And you also get some roof rails up here as well. And here's the thing, this is a car that's meant to sit in between the CHR and the RAV4. So it's a very niche compact SUV. Now, the rear lights back here are kind of boring. They're not really as exciting as the front ones. They just have halogen lamps for the indicators. They don't have that same rolling LED effect like they do up the front. You get a blue badge here to let everyone know you got the hybrid, another hybrid badge to let everyone know that you got the hybrid, an Atmos badge to let everyone know that you bought the top spec Corolla Cross. You get more plastic cladding, and to be honest, it's a very inoffensive design. This thing is very boxy, and it's just designed to be something that looks okay to look at, but there's nothing dramatic going here like Hyundai does with something like the Hyundai Tucson. Oh, and a nice little bit of attention to detail on the outside I can appreciate is this chrome with Corolla Cross stamped in the back, which just makes us feel like Toyota is proud that this car exists. Now check this out. This is why the Toyota Corolla Cross has such a good turning circle. Look at the lean angle on this outside wheel when it's locked all the way out. That means it's going to be easy to park in parking centers and doing 3-point turns because this thing has an incredible turning radius thanks to this. Now, in the back of the Corolla Cross, you do get a power tailgate, which is pretty useful. You get lots of little storage pockets here on the side, which is good again. You have a nice, relatively flat load floor, plenty of plastic to avoid scraping your bumper, but even the bumper's made out of plastic, so that doesn't really matter. You get some little eye hooks in here to tie down things like a cargo net, and you also get a cargo cover. But the thing that sort of annoyed me about this car is that it doesn't have a spare tire. Instead, it has a tire repair kit, and then underneath that, there is a bright orange cable, which you probably shouldn't touch. Now, back here, you can also see a JBL subwoofer because this has a JBL speaker system, and I think that looks kind of cool in the back. And then also, there are some little Easter eggs around this car of the Corolla Cross. You can see it here in the tail lights. You can also see a little Corolla Cross symbol in the back of the boot, just to remind you that this is a Corolla Cross. And they sort of want to highlight these swooping curves, one at the front and one at the back, to make sure this is a distinct feeling car rather than just a normal average SUV. Now, getting into the back of the Corolla Cross is not a hard task. I'm 5'11", sitting behind my driving position. I have okay amounts of knee room. It's a little bit tight, but I have plenty of feet room, and I have okay amounts of headroom as well. But taller adults, say like 6'2", 6'4", going up that way, you're gonna feel a little bit squeezed in the back, but most average adults should be fine. We have 2 USB-C ports, we have 2 air vents back here as well, and a relatively flat load floor. So this middle seat actually isn't the worst to sit in, but it isn't as comfortable as the outside seats. We do get a little armrest here with some cup holders panels here as well, which is really quite nice. And what is cool is we get a giant glass roof, but it is separated by a giant plastic beam, but at least we get a bit more light coming through the front, and this can close. Now, our ISOFIX points are really easy to access as well. They're hidden behind some plastic little guards, which is quite good. The headrests here are okay, and our windows go down all the way, so people sitting in the back will appreciate that. Now, what is weird is we only have one map pocket back here that's behind the passenger seat. But what is good is that unlike previous generation Toyota hybrids like the Prius, where they put the ventilation for the hybrid system on the side, so they said don't block that, but then obviously people bring pillows, blankets for road trips, and that could get a bit weird. They put the ventilation system down below on the passenger side seat, so at least you probably won't be blocking that at all, which is a good thing, so you can stay comfortable and not have to stress about blocking that air vent. Now, we have cup holders high up here in the doors, but we don't have any storage bins in the doors, which I think is a very weird omission. But yeah, you're not going to have too much storage here in the back compared to what they have in the front. So this interior is very similar to a normal Corolla. You have some hard touch materials up top, but soft materials around areas you're most likely going to be touching. You have fake stitching running across the dashboard. You have this giant display here, which looks a little bit ungainly, but it's very useful. And I actually really like the UI of this thing. So Toyota's new screens are really quite nice. And I want to show them off here because they're really responsive. The maps actually are quite nicely integrated as well. So I could actually see myself using this as a basic navigation if I didn't have my phone connected to this car for whatever reason. You've also got easy media controls, easy phone controls, and basic information about your car, including trip info, energy flow. If you click on that, it will show you just a energy flow of your car, something we saw on the first generation Prius, which is kind of cool. And we also do have our little apps here, which we do have an inbuilt browser, which is quite interesting. So if you have Wi-Fi connection, you can go ahead and use that. Now we do have our voice controls here, and we do have our settings here as well. Now, something that is cool is that this camera system here has a reversing camera and also a front-facing camera, but we also have 360-degree cameras. Now, when you're going to park and drive around, if you're driving around a little bit, the car will map the ground underneath your Corolla Cross. Now we have hard buttons for our climate controls, and we also have hard buttons for our volume controls, which is again very good. We've also got hard buttons here for our heated seats and heated steering wheel on this top spec model. We have one USB port up front. We have a wireless charging pad down here, which you can turn on and off, which is quite good in case you want to use this for storage. We have an EV mode button to put this car into EV mode only, traction control off, and a drive mode button to cycle through a couple of drive modes, which includes power, eco, and normal. We also get this shifter here, which allows you to go into all your normal gears, and there's one extra, which is B, and B allows you to go into more of like a priority battery mode and also go into a regen mode, which is quite good. You've also got auto hold here and your electronic parking brake. We have some gloss black plastic here, which is going to scratch kind of easy, which again, I'm not too sure why car manufacturers insist on using this, but here it is in the Corolla Cross. We have some cup holders here, and we also have a pretty decently sized little armrest here, which has some storage underneath it as well. These front seats are also very comfortable. They're in this like faux leather, which is quite nice, and I do like the look and feel of them. Now the steering wheel here is pretty generic Toyota. It feels nice in the hand, and we do have a digital driver display, which is very customizable. This is awesome to see. Now, when brands put a screen in front of you, you want to be able to feel like you have some control over it, which you definitely do with the Corolla Cross. So the Corolla Cross allows you to go through and customize what information you want on the left and right panel, and also in the middle, which is quite nice. And you can set up a couple different views just to have that extra bit of customization. Now the steering wheel here can adjust telescopically, which is quite easy to get nice and comfortable. But if you are going to wait as long as 18 months for a car like this, it better be good to drive. So when you combine a 2-litre petrol 4-cylinder and an electric drivetrain, you're going to get a combined power output of 146 kilowatts, which is around 198 horsepower and 206 newton meters. It's an all-wheel drive system, and of course, it's paired up to a single-speed eCVT gearbox. So there's no simulated gears here. We just have no paddles, which I kind of like actually for a daily driver, and we just have some additional drive modes, like we have our battery mode, which is for regen when we're driving along, and we have an EV-only mode. Now, here's the thing. If you're buying this car to drive as an EV, you're going to be buying the wrong car. This thing is a hybrid through and through. So that EV mode button isn't something that's going to put you into EV mode all the time. It's going to be something for low speeds, and this car is quick to spit the dummy and put this thing back into normal hybrid mode. Now, I always drive around in normal, but Eco will let you just, drive around with a bit more of a subdued powertrain. Normal is just your normal, and Power will prioritize getting you all that nearly 200 horsepower output. So as we go along, if I put my foot down like this, That electric torque down low does push this car quite well. Now, I think the all-wheel drive system is better suited for a car like this because it just allows the car to be pushed along instead of just sort of creating a whole bunch of wheel spin up front, which is kind of nice. So you sort of feel like you're gliding along and getting coasted towards the speed limit, which I like quite a lot. Now, in terms of the immediate sensations that you get here, it is okay with its sound isolation. It's not perfect, but it's pretty quiet for most of the time. You have pretty good visibility out here as well, and if you need to accelerate again, it does a good job of just quickly getting up to speed. Now, this driver's display is pretty useful, but I do find the glare from that sunroof a little bit much sometimes, so that can be a slightly annoying thing that happens. And also the responsiveness in this gauge on the left, so it's not a rev counter, it's an eco, power, and then it says charge, so it sort of swings around between all those things. You would have seen it if you've driven any Toyota hybrid car. It's just a bit laggy for its response for a screen that seems like it's got pretty good response times, which is something I'm not a big fan of. Now, in terms of brakes, if we go to brake in 3, 2, 1, and brake, this thing does do a good job of hooking up. Now, here's the thing, this thing only weighs 1.3 ton. It's not that heavy. So it's a nice lightweight SUV, which again will help with fuel consumption. And in terms of fuel consumption, I've only been sipping around 5.3 liters per 100 Ks on my daily drive. So that's pretty good. And this thing is going to be very fuel efficient, especially for people who don't really want to be visiting the petrol pump all the time. Now, the steering is just, look at this. It's like, you know, it's a perfectly fine steering setup for a daily driver, but don't expect any sort of feedback in any way. It's just a way to point your wheels. Now, in terms of throttle feedback, it's okay. There's a little bit of lag between pushing the throttle and getting a immediate response, but when you're just sort of feeding on and off the throttle, it does a fine job of just getting up to the speeds you need to be at. We have radar cruise control, and we also have auto lane keep assist, which I like a lot, and auto lane centering, which works very well out on the highway. It doesn't complain all that much in terms of binging and bonging at you, which I like quite a lot. Now, you do get some information in the gauge cluster to let you know when you're driving in EV mode and all that, so it's cool to see this car working around, and you can see the power flow as well between the engine and the battery, and you can see how much charge is in your battery. But here's the biggest thing. The way this engine interacts with the electric drivetrain is so seamless. It's buttery. It just doesn't go and turn on and just like create a huge noise when it sort of turns on to engage and start, you know, charging this car up. It's really, really quite relaxing, and it's the best hybrid powertrain I've tested yet. It's amazing how seamless it is, and it's the reason why this car has a massive wait time is because of just how easy this car works as a hybrid. It doesn't create for a more disturbing setup. It doesn't have a clunky sort of engagement. It's really quite nice. And here's the other thing as well, going through corners in this car, you are going to notice a bit of a difference between this all-wheel drive setup and a front-wheel drive setup. The front-wheel drive gets a torsion bar at the back, which means it will just be a little bit, you know, stiffer, and it's also for cutting costs, but this has a multi-link on the rear for the all-wheel drive model, which means it should be a bit more compliant and a bit more comfortable, and you can feel that. But what I did notice is that this car has a lot of pitch and roll because this is a Corolla on stilts. So as you go through a corner like this, the car will do a bit of a lean. Now, your head doesn't get thrown around all that much, which is quite nice, but yes, you will pitch forwards and backwards a lot if you are aggressive on the brake and throttle. But if you're a bit more relaxed, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But don't expect this thing to carve up like a GR Corolla. If you need a sensible daily driver, the best car you can buy right now is a Toyota Corolla Cross. Now, it's something that's not as radical as the new CHR, so if you want something a bit more exciting, but also, you know, something sensible, you can go for the new CHR. If you need something a bit more adventurous, a little bit bigger, you can go for a RAV4. But if you need a basic commuter that also is really fuel efficient, has one of the best hybrid powertrains you can buy right now, is spacious on the inside, and just something that's comfortable to drive day to day because you have a long commute every single day, but you also don't want an electric car, the Corolla Cross Hybrid is the car to go and get. Now, what I would recommend is that you could check out any of the hybrids. I don't think I would buy a base non-hybrid Corolla Cross, because the whole reason why these Toyota Corolla Crosses are so popular is because of this hybrid powertrain. And then you can decide if you need an all-wheel drive system or a front-wheel front-wheel drive system, but I can always say for a little SUV like this, you'll always benefit from an all-wheel drive system because this thing also has a better suspension setup because of that. But ultimately, I think I'd personally just buy a Toyota Corolla hybrid. I don't need an SUV personally, and I kind of like the looks of a Toyota Corolla hatchback way more than this thing. But if you need an SUV for ease of entry and maybe a bit more storage space, then the Corolla Cross Hybrid is the car for you. But here's the thing. You have to wait and you have to be patient for one if you want to buy a brand new one or you don't want to pay an excessive amount for a demonstrator or used version. What I can say is that if you are waiting, there are no nasty surprises here. It's exactly the type of car you'd be hoping for when you put your name down for one maybe a couple of months ago. Now, thank you so much for watching. My name is Cameron. This is Product Review Cars. If you want to see more Toyota hybrid car reviews here on this channel, make sure you hit subscribe and let me know, would you wait up to 18 months for a car like this? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want more car content, make sure you follow us at Product Review Cars on Instagram and TikTok. And also make sure you review your own car and let everyone know what it's like to own your own vehicle over on productreview.com.au. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Cameron. I'll see you in the next one.